Okay, ICRA 2025 wrapped up at the end of May. It was my first robotics conference ever. I got to go because I co-authored a paper that was being presented in one of the technical sessions. And so the Department of Computer Science funded me to go to the conference. And I want to share a lot about that experience, but also some of the other things that went along with it. It was a pretty overwhelming week-long conference. There was just a lot of reflection for me in that period and in the follow-up weeks after, which is why it's taken me a little while to make this video and actually edit it and get it out. And I want to share that because I know a lot of people who watch the content on my channel are either considering a PhD, or they're starting a PhD program, or they're in a PhD program. And all of us are trying to figure out what we're doing in this research PhD world. And it's just really helpful when someone else has some advice or some information about, what they've experienced, and you can use that to your advantage. All right, so ICRA is a big deal in robotics. It's a very big conference. Stands for the International Conference on Robotics and Automation. It's pretty well known. And this year, I think there were 7,000 people there, and which is a pretty big conference. It just so happened that this year it was hosted in Atlanta, Georgia, which is in the United States, and also the same city where I did my undergraduate degree. So if you've seen my video about my kind of non-traditional path, basically to get to college, then you would know that going to college was a big deal for me, and I was really, really excited to graduate, and I ended up graduating in 2020 when everything shut down for COVID. So I never got to really do a graduation ceremony. I didn't get to celebrate with my friends. We were all staying fairly isolated. And in the middle of, that time, I was moving out here to Colorado to start my job. I had actually gone into the software engineering industry, which is what I did before going back to school for my PhD. And one of the things I realized when I landed in Atlanta was that I never really got closure on that chapter of my life. I graduated from college, big deal for me, immediately moved in the middle of a pandemic to a new state that I had never lived in before, and started a new job. And I never really had that feeling of graduating, and I didn't get to celebrate with my family or anything like that. So I get back to Atlanta and I'm like, wow, this feels weird being here. It's like my friends don't live here anymore, and there aren't that many people I'm in touch with still even living in Georgia. So it just felt a little bit heavy, honestly. And I was like, oh no, I'm getting older. Which sounds obvious, but that was basically how I started the week, and then went to this 7,000 person robotics conference for my first professional conference as a PhD student. And so there was a lot of the experience that just felt very overwhelming. So the conference itself is 5 days. It's in a massive convention center, and Monday and Friday of the conference are called workshop days. And then Tuesday through Thursday were the actual conference days. Workshops were not what I thought they would be. So the term workshop kind of made me think of a tutorial session or something, where I would be learning, in a structured way about something. And that's not what the workshops were. They were actually more people presenting their preliminary results of work that they had that wasn't quite ready for the full publication, but was developing and part of the way there. I think those were actually really cool because it gives you insight into what it looks like when you're partway through to the final paper that you get published. So people would present their motivation and then some preliminary results they had, and then they talk about here are all the things we want to do in the future to make this a full paper. And so that was actually really cool. Actually, one of my favorite sessions was a workshop session on Friday of the conference, which was the last day. And it was all about safety in VLMs, which are vision language models. And that session was really, really interesting. It had a mix of research work in progress, and then also keynote speakers. So interesting people from industry, or other academic labs talking about a particular, subject related to safety in VLMs. And I thought that was super interesting, really worth my time to go to that part. Tuesday through Thursday, those were all the accepted paper talks. So all the full papers that had been accepted for publication, those were all presented in like different sessions, all going on at the same time in the conference center. So there would be like a SLAM session or like a multi-agent robot session or planning under uncertainty or something. I went to a lot of those. There were all these different things going on at the same time. And that is part of what made it kind of overwhelming, is that if you got to a session and you were like, oh, I don't know if this is worth my time because it really doesn't seem like the stuff I'm interested in, you would be like furiously scrolling your phone, like looking for the next room in the conference center where there was something that might be relevant to you. And I really wish I had done some prep work in advance, picking like a plan A and a plan B for the day. Like, I'm going to go to this session, and if I don't really like it, I'll go to this other session. Because once you're there, it's actually like can be quite a walk going from room to room and figuring out where everything is. And so you might actually miss talks that you wanted to go to. And that was a little bit frustrating at times for me, since I didn't quite plan ahead. I just really didn't have a good idea of where I was going. So some days I felt like I wasted a little bit of time going to sessions that didn't end up mattering to me very much. But in general, it's very much like a fast-paced thing. People were giving like 5-minute presentations, and then they would be at a poster after in the same room, and you would go around and read the posters and talk with the authors about the work if you were interested in it. And that part of it was pretty cool, but could also get kind of overwhelming if you're all trying to go to the same posters. There'd be like 10 people around one poster and only, one author there who's able to field questions. So it did get very, very busy in certain parts of the conference. One thing that I had been super worried about was dress code. I think that this is true for a lot of people. Like, how do I dress for these types of things? Because it sucks when you're overdressed, everyone notices you. And then when you're underdressed, everyone notices you. And so it's like, okay, well, what do I wear to this thing? So I had brought like a variety of outfits, basically, some that were more formal and some that were more casual. And in the end, what I noticed is that most people who are just attending the conference are pretty casual. Like, nice shirt and jeans was totally acceptable. Tennis sneakers, acceptable. The big difference was when you were a speaker. So I noticed like a lot of the speakers who were giving a presentation, they would have more formal attire on, like dress pants and a dress shirt or something like that. So I think next time, if I'm actually giving the presentation, which I didn't end up doing this time, I will wear like formal clothes for my presentation, and then probably a more casual outfit, like jeans, a nice shirt, nice shoes, for the rest of the conference. Tennis sneakers were a really big benefit because you're standing a lot, standing on these like really hard concrete floors in a convention center. So you're walking around, standing, walking, standing. And if I had been wearing like formal shoes, like dress shoes, my feet would have been hurting so badly. They were already hurting in tennis shoes, so I can't even imagine wearing dress clothes for that. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. Like, a conference this big, you're probably going to be walking a lot. So having comfortable shoes was really, really helpful. And it also was really helpful for me to have a small backpack. I brought a backpack with me every day to the conference because it was nice to have my water bottle with me, a healthier snack. Like, they have a lot of baked goods and pastries and stuff, but if I eat that stuff all day, I'm in trouble. So I brought some healthier snacks with me and had them in my backpack. I could bring my laptop and of course my notebook, which now goes everywhere with me. So having a little backpack was really good, and I'm glad I packed that. Now let's talk about the harder parts of this conference. So I would say that there were some real ups and downs for me. Like, there were parts of the day where I would be looking around at all this cool stuff going on, and I'd be like, wow, I'm here in this place doing this stuff. How cool is that? And then, an hour later, I'd be like, I'm so overwhelmed, and I'm like spiraling into negativity and self-doubt and feeling like, am I ever going to be as accomplished as some of these other people who are here? And like, look at this person, they've published, 6 first author publications and they're only in their second year of their PhD program. I'm never going to get there, blah, blah, blah. And in general, like I would get these really overwhelming feelings of I'm not doing enough, right? I'm not doing enough to get myself where I want to be. And those days were kind of hard to like recover from. Thankfully, I did go with some of my lab mates, and so it was nice to just decompress with them after the conference sessions were over. We could go out and have dinner and chat about what we saw, and that would usually bring me back, kind of shake me out of it a little bit. Just realizing like, okay, I am building vocabulary. I can talk about what I've seen at the conference. I can talk the technical speak that I need to when I need to. And it was good for me to just recognize that I am building, I am learning, I'm getting somewhere. But I think that surprised me a lot was like looking around, thousands of other people in the field and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I'm doing enough. That was the most challenging part. And so I talked to my PIs about it when I got back. We did a little bit of like a conference debrief, and I told them that, and both of them in their own way were like, listen, that's a normal feeling to have, especially when you're in your first year of your PhD program. And they were like, this is why we send people to conferences early in their PhD program. This is why we like to send first and second year students to conferences, because it really opens your eyes and you'll see what you need to do and you'll see what other people are doing, and it'll help us have a conversation about how we get you to where you want to be. And so that was reassuring in a lot of ways, and I think is a sign of good advising when they can help you figure out, if this is your goal, what are you going to be doing to get there? And so after this conference, spent some time thinking about that, thinking about my goals, thinking about what I want, and having these meetings with my advisors just to try to figure out what I need to do to get feeling like I'm on track for those. And so I think you're going to see a lot from me in the coming videos about what it's like to kind of get that process together. So the last big part of this conference thing is networking. And that is like the thing that you're supposed to be doing while you're there, is like talking to people whose work you're interested in and getting an idea of what the different labs are across the world that are doing the research you're interested in, and generally just like socializing with your professional colleagues, because for a lot of people, you'll only see them once, maybe twice a year at a conference, because most of us aren't being funded to fly all over the world to each other's labs, right? So this is the conference is your opportunity to talk to people who you otherwise would never interact with. That part of the conference is really exhausting, like draining, almost physically for me, but it's really important. And I actually do enjoy talking to people about their work. I think I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't been so in my head about the self-doubt stuff. Like, wasted effort and energy was spent on not being kind to myself and not encouraging myself to just keep pushing through instead of like dwelling on, the negativity or imposter syndrome. And so I think that part of it was draining my energy. And then I'm talking to people all day long, and that part drained my energy. So I felt so tired. And it's not just the conference day. Like once the conference material concludes, then you go out to dinner with your lab colleagues and you go out for drinks with, people that you've met, and you continue talking like well into the late hours of the night. And I did that like multiple days in a row, and then was so tired by the end. When I got home from the conference, I just crashed. I was like on the couch lounging for a whole day, and it actually felt like pretty good and justified at that point. So I was really happy to be home, honestly, but that was a little bit unexpected for me, just how much networking is going on and how time consuming it is. And energy consuming. And I'm actually excited for the next conference I get to go to. It's like now that I've gotten one out of the way, I know what to expect, and I'll be more ready for it the next time. A, by preparing like my schedule in advance, what I'm going to do based on what's, at the conference, but B, just understanding where to put my workout schedule in. Like if the evenings are going to be taken up by chatting with people and going out to dinner and stuff, then my workout needs to be in the morning. I can't rely on going back to the hotel at 7 p.m. and getting, a full run and a strength session in. I'm going to need to do that in the morning. So I'm so much more prepared for the next one. And I did come back from the conference feeling excited about what I'm working on and feeling excited about talking to my advisors, making sure that we are setting me up for the options that I want available to me, when I graduate from the PhD program, which still feels a really long way away. But I think it's important to remember, where you're trying to go with this. Otherwise you get lost in it and maybe demotivated. So that was the ICRA experience, and I'm really glad I went, but a few things I wish I would have known in advance for sure, and definitely just better planning next time. Stay tuned because I am finally finishing the How to Get Started in Robotics video. I know it's taken a while and I keep promising that it's there. I'm finally finishing it now. So I'm going to be posting that one soon. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel so you get notified when it comes out.